main cast and crew of the Call of the Dead movie consisted of Sarah Michelle Gellar, Robert Englund, Danny Trejo, Michael Rooker, and director George Romero. These 5 people, along with many other crew members such as the lighting department, the camera and sound crew, travelled to Siberia in 2011 to film George's latest zombie movie, Call of the Dead. However, something went wrong. Everyone disappeared. But what happened to them? Did they die? Did they get lost in a snowstorm in the Siberian wilderness? Are they still alive? George A. Romero was an American-Canadian filmmaker, writer, editor, and actor. He made a bunch of films such as the Night of the Living Dead series, which were about an imagined zombie apocalypse. The original, came out in 1968 called Night of the Living Dead, and because of this, he was considered a major contributor to the image of zombies in modern day culture. Romero was often described as an influential pioneer of the horror film genre and had been called the father of the zombie film, an icon. He basically came up with the idea of zombies in movies. He also made Dawn of the Dead in 1978, Day of the Dead in 1985, along with many other series and films. Born on February 4th, 1940 in New York, ever since graduating college in the 60s, Romero was obsessed with the idea of zombies, and it was around this time where he began his career in shooting short films and TV commercials. As the years went by, he would go on to direct many different movies through the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and around this time, he began doing research for a World War II movie. And whilst he was doing this research, he came across some interesting old documents that pertained back to the 40s.
Years ago, I did research for a World War II movie. I came across some old Nazi documents. I couldn't believe what I was reading. Element 115, necromancers, raising the dead, real creepy stuff.
These documents contained information to do with the Nazis, Group 935, Element 115, raising the dead, zombies. These documents that George found told him about time travel, different dimensions, along with a bunch of characters that we're familiar with, being Richtofen, Takeo, Nikolai, and Dempsey. George found out all of this information and he discovered that a lot of it took place in Siberia. He knew that it was the location of one of Group 935's outposts, and of course, being intrigued by the idea of the undead, he just had to check it out for himself.
The coolest thing? Some of that crazy shit happened right here.
So he came up with the perfect idea. Why not, for his next zombie film, actually travel to this location where zombie experiments actually happened and use it as the set for one of his next zombie movies? And that's exactly what he did. In the late 2000s, the early 2010s, George began preparing for his next zombie movie, Call of the Dead. He wrote the script, and the 4 actors he chose to play in the starring roles for this film were Sarah Michelle Gellar, Robert Englund, Danny Trejo, and Michael Rooker. Sarah was an American actress. She made her debut in a television film called An Invasion of Privacy back in 1983. Robert Englund was an actor from California who was best known for his role as Freddy Krueger in Nightmare of Elm Street. Danny Trejo had acted in films such as Desperado, Heat, and the From Dusk Till Dawn series, and Michael Rooker was another American actor who rose to prominence in the 80s, but had also played in another zombie series called The Walking Dead, and George thought all 4 of these actors were the perfect cast to star in his next movie. In March of 2011, George, along with the rest of his cast and crew members, travelled to Siberia in preparation to begin filming Call of the Dead. They arrive, they set everything up, they begin filming over several days, and on March the 17th, something goes wrong. Halfway through their shoot, the Ultimus characters, Richtofen, Takeo, Nikolai, and Dempsey, after helping to free Gersh from the Casimir mechanism in the Soviet Union, Gersh then opens up a rift for them so that they can escape ascension, and they use it to teleport to Siberia at the exact same time that George is here filming his movie. However, Richtofen's coordinates were slightly wrong, and he ends up arriving in Siberia, but behind a locked door, finding himself trapped along with Takeo, Nikolai, and Dempsey. And because of this, Samantha, wanting to kill Richtofen, sent the zombies who were chasing down the Ultimus crew to Siberia. And unfortunately for George, the zombies arrived there at the exact same time that he was recording his zombie movie.
We're completely surrounded!
We're completely fucked! Are you girls kidding me? I've been praying for this shit! Come on!
Boys, let's get to work.
For God's sakes, he missed me again!
And so whilst filming is going on, George cuts production because Michael Rooker didn't hit one of the actor zombies properly to make it look realistic. George then asks Michael if he's blind and shows him exactly how you're supposed to hit by hitting Robert Englund. And as this is going on, a zombie enters the set. George, of course, thinks this is just another one of his actors and tells them to go back to hair and makeup because they don't look realistic enough, they don't look like a zombie. But this isn't one of his actors, this is one of the zombies that Samantha sent here to kill Richtoff and Takeo Nikolai Dempsey. This zombie then charges at George, picks him up, takes him away. Michael Rooker, Sarah, Robert and Danny realise that isn't in the script. They realise that, okay, something's actually going on here, and that's when the real zombies swarm the set and the crew have to fend off the undead hordes for their life. They have to fight for their survival. But not only do they have to fend off against the undead, they also have to fend off against George, who, after being taken by the zombie, is turned into one himself. He gets killed and then reanimated with 115, where he turns into a zombie. All of the other members of the Call of the Dead movies, such as the lighting crew, the camera crew, the sound crew, are also killed by zombies and then reanimated into one themselves, leaving only Sarah, Danny, Robert and Michael alive, all while surviving the undead outbreak and surviving George, who is constantly following them around as a zombie, albeit a much stronger one who is almost impossible for them to kill. When they do, it comes back anyway. The four characters explore the abandoned Group 935 outpost, and when doing so, they come across Richtoff and Takeo Nikolai Dempsey locked behind a door. Richtoff pleads with Sarah and the other cast members for their help, explaining that they've been teleported too far forward in time and that they're now trapped inside of this room, and so, obliging, the cast help them out. They complete a bunch of objectives that Richtofen tells them to do around the Siberian facility. Upon doing so, they obtain a device called the Golden Rod. They hand it to Richtofen, Takeo Nikolai and Dempsey through a device in the door, in which they then teleport away, escaping, leaving Sarah, Danny, Robert and Michael stranded here. And that was the last time that they were heard from. But of course, being celebrities and movie stars, there were people that were looking for them. 6 weeks after they were first reported missing, Hollywood began to lose its mind. An entire production team vanishing just wasn't normal. Agents, studios were all wondering what happened to the cast and crew of Call of the Dead, but nobody knew. Georgie's assistant Sally began to get phone calls from managers and agents of these celebrities, wondering what happened to them, but of course she had no idea, and so to try and get answers, she went through Georgie's research that he did for one of his World War II movies, where she discovered what George had learnt about time travel, Group 935, Element 115 and zombies.
It's been 6 weeks since the rest of the Call of the Dead cast and crew went missing. Hollywood's lost its fucking mind on this story. An entire production vanishes? Crazy talk. I told you, this is why you don't shoot in Siberia. So with agent on line 1, manager on line 2, I needed to sort this quickly. I'd rather zombies come for me than an agent. That's real horror. I don't need that.
She thought maybe if she looks into this further, she might get answers as to what really happened to the Call of the Dead cast, but she never got answers. Instead, the further she looked into it, she ended up getting herself trapped inside of a time loop.
I started going through his research, and good fucking lord, this is a confusing mess. So much shit about time travel, different dimensions. Honestly, I'm not even sure what he's getting into. You can make this stuff up. A mad German scientist, a foul-mouthed American, a drunk Soviet, and a warrior Japanese soldier, all working together?
But the Call of the Dead cast and crew were never heard from again. So what became of them? Well, we know George was turned into a zombie, so that was his fate, but for Sarah, Robert, Danny and Michael, there are a few possibilities. Either, 1, eventually they also succumbed to the undead, they were killed and turned into zombies themselves, or they didn't turn and just died. If they weren't killed by the undead, they would have been killed by the snowstorm and the weather, the location. Or if they did end up surviving, well, eventually, just like most of our other characters in Call of Duty Zombies, they would have been banished to the Dark Ether. And when inside of there, your chance of survival is very low. So, as I've said with the transit characters, there is a 1% chance that the Call of the Dead cast are alive, but a 99% chance that they died later on in Siberia, or if they did survive, were banished to the Dark Ether, where their chances of surviving in there were even smaller. So, there we go. That was what happened to the Call of the Dead crew. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, hopefully you've enjoyed the video today. If you have, drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel. Let me know who you would like to see next. I've also covered the 5 crew and the transit crew, so both of them you can check out in the description below. Also, you can check out my YouTube course if you want to. You will find that in the description as well. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.
You can't outrun me! You can, but don't!